My card was only for food and cold drinks, Vanessa Reed said, holding her phone a few inches from her sister's face. So explain to me why $9,250 vanished before sunrise. Vanessa was 31 years old and worked as a restorative dentist in Asheville, North Carolina. Her days were spent saving teeth that other people had given up on. She rebuilt cracked molars, treated infections that had been ignored for years, and convinced frightened patients that a damaged tooth was usually worth saving if you caught the decay in time. She was good at her work because she was patient, precise, and unwilling to pretend that a problem would heal on its own. Yet there was one kind of damage she had never learned to repair. Her younger sister. The night before, Brooke had called her, warm and laughing, inviting her to a rooftop event downtown. She had asked to borrow Vanessa's card for food and cold drinks because her own account, she said, was frozen after a billing error. Vanessa had hesitated because every small favor for Brooke had a way of growing into a much larger obligation. Still, she handed the card over. By morning, that card showed charges for a luxury hotel suite, electronics, jewelry, prepaid debit cards, and an online sports betting platform. Vanessa did not cry, and she did not scream. She photographed every transaction, took the card back, and walked away while Brooke insisted there was a reasonable explanation. Their mother called before Vanessa even reached her car. "She needs help," their mother said. "Do not be cruel over one bad night." That was when Vanessa understood that they were all waiting for the familiar ending. She would become furious, she would feel guilty, and in the end, she would quietly pay for everything, the way she always had. Instead, she said nothing. That night, she made one calm and quiet move. At exactly 7:40 the next morning, Brooke opened the account she believed would rescue her and screamed loudly enough that a neighbor knocked on her door to ask if she was hurt. Before I tell you what Vanessa changed that night, why her sister panicked, and what happened when their mother finally learned the truth, do me a favor. Tell me what time it is where you are and what city you are watching from. I would love to know how far this story travels tonight. Vanessa discovered the damage at 6:47 on Sunday morning. She opened her banking app only to check whether her paycheck had cleared, and she saw that just $204 of available credit remained. 7 purchases had been made between 10:09 the previous night and 3:11 that same morning. A hotel suite, a jewelry charge of $2,100, 2 separate electronics transactions, a stack of prepaid debit cards, a ride-share charge, and a deposit of $1,500 to a sports betting service. Her instant alerts had not reached her right away because she had turned off individual notifications while she worked inside the clinic. The treatment rooms sat behind thick walls and lead shielding for the imaging equipment, and her phone often went silent for hours. Brooke knew this. Brooke had once joked that Vanessa received yesterday's warnings today. That single detail changed everything. The spending did not feel impulsive. It felt planned. Vanessa called 5 times before Brooke finally answered. "I am sleeping," Brooke whispered. "You used my card," Vanessa said. "I bought food," Brooke answered. "I told you I would." "You spent $9,250, Vanessa said. There were a few seconds of silence. Then Brooke said the hotel had probably placed a temporary hold on the card. Vanessa asked whether the jewelry store had also placed a temporary hold. Brooke muttered that they should talk about it later, and in the background Vanessa heard laughter and music. Brooke was not at home, and she was not alone. Vanessa ordered her to bring the card back immediately. Brooke ended the call, so Vanessa opened her laptop and examined each transaction one at a time. The hotel room had been reserved under Brooke's name for 2 guests. The jewelry receipt described a bracelet engraved with the letters R and J. The electronics order had been shipped to an account created with Vanessa's own email address several months earlier. Vanessa searched her spam folder and found old verification messages she had never noticed. They proved this was not one reckless night. Her information had been part of a much longer scheme. Vanessa drove to her sister's apartment and waited in the parking lot. At 9:20, Brooke arrived in a ride share with a woman who was wearing the new bracelet. When the woman noticed Vanessa standing there, she smiled and asked whether Vanessa was the business partner. The woman introduced herself as Renee. She explained that Brooke had told everyone Vanessa was quietly financing a cosmetic dental device distribution company. Renee had invested $5,000 because Brooke promised to double it within 2 months. Vanessa told her the truth. There was no company. There was no investment. Brooke had used a credit card without permission. Renee slowly removed the bracelet and asked Brooke whether she had lied about all of it. Brooke blamed the alcohol, then the pressure, then a supplier who had vanished, then her own confusion, changing the story every few sentences. Vanessa asked Renee to save every message between them. Then she demanded the card. Brooke handed it over and promised to repay everything once her deal closed. "There is no deal," Vanessa said. "You used my email for a gambling account. You told a stranger that I was your investor, and you waited until you knew my alerts would be delayed." Brooke accused her of always assuming the worst. Vanessa drove home, froze the card, requested new account numbers, and filed a dispute. The bank warned her that some claims might be difficult because she had handed over the physical card herself. But Vanessa held another kind of leverage, and Brooke had forgotten all about it. For 3 years, Vanessa had quietly maintained a safety net beneath her sister's entire life. She was the guarantor on Brooke's apartment lease. She had set up an automatic rent payment that would trigger if Brooke ever fell behind. And she kept a small emergency account that Brooke could not touch, but had often pointed to whenever she needed to look financially stable. Brooke believed that even after burning through $9,250, Vanessa would rescue her once again to protect the family's reputation and her own credit. At 10:16 that night, Vanessa opened the lease, the payment authorization, the betting records, Renee's screenshots, and the text messages in which Brooke admitted using the card. She wrote one sentence in her journal: "Tonight, I need consequences, not another conversation." Then she began preparing the quiet move that would dismantle her sister's confidence by morning. Vanessa did not empty a shared account. She did not steal her sister's money. She did not invent a crisis. She did something far less dramatic and far more damaging to the system that had protected Brooke for years. She removed herself from every financial obligation she had ever volunteered to carry. First, she contacted the property management company through its emergency document portal. The lease allowed a guarantor to withdraw before renewal if the tenant had submitted false financial information. Brooke's renewal was scheduled to process at 7:30 the next morning. Vanessa uploaded proof that Brooke had listed the emergency account as a shared asset, even though Brooke had no ownership of it whatsoever. She attached a formal notice revoking her guarantee and requested written confirmation. Second, she canceled the automatic rent authorization. The payment had not yet processed, but Brooke had already promised her landlord that this account would cover last month's overdue balance. Third, Vanessa revoked access to a shared digital folder full of financial statements that Brooke had been using to impress Renee and 2 so-called business partners. She replaced everything inside it with a single page that read, "Vanessa Reed has never invested in, endorsed, or authorized any company connected to Brooke Reed." Fourth, she sent Renee the bank investigation reference number and advised her to preserve every message. Vanessa did not tell Renee to sue, to threaten, or to humiliate Brooke in public. She simply handed another victim the truth. Finally, Vanessa used a standard template from her clinic's employee legal assistance program to prepare a repayment agreement. It offered Brooke 2 paths: sign a structured repayment plan and disclose every unauthorized use of Vanessa's identity, or receive a formal demand letter followed by a civil claim. She scheduled the email to send at 7:40 in the morning, 5 minutes after the lease renewal system opened. Then she turned off her phone and slept more deeply than she had in months. At 7:40 the next morning, Brooke opened the email while logging into the property portal. The portal showed 3 notices at once. Her lease renewal was suspended. Her overdue rent payment had failed. Her guarantor had withdrawn because of financial misrepresentation. At that exact moment, the shared folder she had been presenting as proof of funding emptied itself. The repayment agreement landed in her inbox. Seconds later, a message from Renee arrived, saying she had contacted an attorney. The scream the neighbor heard was not caused by one missing account. It came from watching 4 lies collapse on the same screen. Brooke called Vanessa 14 times between 7:41 and 7:56. Vanessa listened to none of them until she reached the clinic. The first voicemail was confused. The second demanded that she restore the rent authorization. By the fourth, Brooke accused her of trying to make her homeless. In the 7th, she threatened to tell their mother that Vanessa had stolen family money. By the 11th, the anger had curdled into fear. "They are saying I falsified documents," she said. "Call me before this gets worse." Vanessa placed the phone face down and walked into her first appointment of the day. Her morning case was a difficult one, an older patient with a deeply fractured molar that had been ignored for 2 years. The decay had spread under the gum line. Saving the tooth would require patience and precision. Rush it, and the root would crack. Flood it with too much pressure, and you would lose the structure you were trying to keep. She breathed, picked up her instruments, and let the work steady her hands. Her office manager, Tessa Cole, noticed that Vanessa had read the same line of the patient chart 3 times without moving. Tessa had a quiet gift for spotting distress without announcing it to the whole office. She waited until the room cleared, then closed the door and asked one plain question. "Do you need practical help or emotional help right now?" The question was so direct that Vanessa answered honestly. "Practical," she said. "My sister took my card and spent $9,250 overnight. She also used my name to convince people I was funding a company." Tessa did not gasp. She did not ask why Vanessa had trusted her. She asked whether the card was frozen, whether the credit reports were locked, and whether the evidence had been saved. Vanessa had handled the card but had not yet touched the credit reports. So during the lunch break, the 2 of them placed freezes with all 3 credit bureaus and changed the passwords on Vanessa's email, her banking portal, her cloud storage, and her phone account. Then Tessa asked the harder question. How long have you been paying to keep her from facing consequences? Vanessa wanted to say she had only helped here and there. Instead, she found herself listing it out loud. The car repairs, 2 security deposits, the utility bills, a licensing course Brooke had signed up for and never finished, 3 months of rent after Brooke claimed her paycheck had been delayed. When she added it all together, the total crossed $28,000 over 4 years. "She always had a reason," Vanessa said. "Reasons explain behavior," Tessa answered. "They do not erase responsibility." At 11 that morning, their mother called the clinic's front desk after Vanessa stopped answering her personal phone. She told the receptionist there was a family emergency, and the call was passed to Vanessa's office. "Your sister is about to lose her apartment," Carol Reed said, without so much as a hello. "Whatever you did, undo it." Vanessa looked through the glass wall toward the treatment rooms. "She falsified financial documents and used my card without permission," she said. "You gave her the card for food," her mother replied. "She was under stress." "She spent over $2,000 on a bracelet," Vanessa said. There was a pause. Then her mother said, "Young women do silly things when they are trying to impress someone." That sentence landed harder than Vanessa expected. Her mother was not denying what had happened. She was converting it into something small enough to swallow. "She also opened a gambling account using my identity," Vanessa said. "That sounds like a simple misunderstanding," her mother answered. It required my email and my personal information, Vanessa said. Then help her close it, her mother said. Do not destroy your sister's life over one mistake. Vanessa opened a blank document on her screen and began typing while her mother kept talking. It became the second letter she would never send. Mom, every time she creates a disaster, you call it an accident. Every time I refuse to clean it up, you call me heartless. When did her comfort become more important than my safety? Out loud, she said only this: I am not restoring anything. She can sign the repayment agreement. You are her sister, her mother said. That relationship did not stop her, Vanessa replied. Her mother's voice sharpened. Your father would never have treated family this way. Vanessa went very still. Their father had died 6 years earlier, and her mother reached for his memory whenever ordinary guilt stopped working. For years, Vanessa had accepted that comparison, terrified that setting a boundary would make her seem cold. This time, she recognized the move before it could reach her. Dad kept a ledger, Vanessa said quietly. He believed people should repay what they borrowed. Please do not use him to make this easier for her. Then she ended the call. By the afternoon, Brooke's problems had multiplied. Renee's attorney sent a preservation notice. The landlord requested proof of income, and Brooke's employer phoned the clinic because Vanessa's number had appeared on an equipment financing application that Brooke had submitted as part of a sales proposal. Brooke had apparently listed Vanessa as the chief financial officer of a private distribution company. Vanessa told the employer only that she had never held that title and had never authorized her information to be used. Within hours, Brooke was placed on administrative leave. At 4:50, Brooke appeared in the clinic lobby. Reception would not let her past the front desk without Vanessa's approval, so she stood there, calling repeatedly while patients walked around her. Vanessa watched from the upper floor as Brooke moved from anger to begging. A year earlier, she would have rushed downstairs to end the scene. This time she sent word through the front desk that she would meet Brooke at a public diner at 6. She wanted witnesses, distance, and a clear way out. At 5:55, Vanessa packed the repayment agreement, copies of the receipts, and a small notebook that held her 3 rules. No cash, no secrets, no rescue from consequences. She did not yet know that Brooke had brought their mother along, or that the conversation was about to reveal a debt far larger than $9,250. Brooke and Carol were already seated in a back booth when Vanessa arrived. She kept her coat on and set the envelope of documents on the table. Their mother announced that they would solve this calmly, but Vanessa looked straight at her sister. "How much do you owe?" she asked. Brooke avoided the question and complained about her suspended lease. Vanessa asked again. Finally, their mother answered for her. "Around $30,000, she said. Brooke corrected her. "Closer to 36, she said, depending on the betting balance. The $9,250 charge had been a desperate attempt to cover older losses. Brooke had started betting on professional basketball almost a year earlier. Then she joined a private group that sold guaranteed predictions for a monthly fee. When she lost, she borrowed from paycheck advance apps. When those came due, she took new loans to cover the old ones. She convinced Renee to invest in a company that did not exist. On the night of the rooftop event, she had bought electronics she planned to resell and rented a hotel suite to impress 2 men who claimed they could introduce her to investors. The electronics were sold before dawn for less than half their price. The prepaid cards were gone. Renee had kept the bracelet. Vanessa listened until Brooke finished. "Now you understand why she needs us?" their mother said. "No," Vanessa replied. "Now I understand why any money we give her will simply disappear." Brooke accused her of wanting to punish her. Vanessa reminded her that all she had wanted was a card used for food and cold drinks. Then she turned to her mother and asked when she had first learned about the gambling. Her mother hesitated, then admitted she had known for 2 months. She had already paid $6,000 toward Brooke's debt, using money she had set aside to replace the failing heating system in her own home. And still, she had urged Vanessa to remain the guarantor because Brooke had promised she was stopping. Vanessa felt more betrayed by the secrecy than by the amount. "You let me keep covering her rent while you knew," she said. "I was trying to protect my daughter," her mother answered. "And I am also your daughter," Vanessa said. She placed the repayment agreement on the table. It required Brooke to acknowledge the debt, make monthly payments, disclose every account opened with Vanessa's information, stop contacting her employer, attend financial counseling, and complete a gambling assessment. If she refused, Vanessa would move forward with a civil claim and cooperate with any investigation. Their mother called the document something only strangers would use. "Strangers do not have enough access to steal this much," Vanessa answered. Brooke skimmed the pages, then tore the first sheet in half. Calmly, Vanessa pulled a second copy from the envelope. "You expected me to do that?" Brooke asked. "I expected you to keep avoiding accountability," Vanessa replied. Brooke stood up and accused Vanessa of loving her role as the responsible, successful daughter everyone admired. The accusation stung, because part of it was true. After their father died, Vanessa had built her whole identity around being dependable. She had rescued Brooke partly because being needed made her feel secure. "I did like being needed," she admitted. "That is exactly why this lasted so long. But I do not like who I become when helping you means abandoning myself." Brooke warned that when she lost everything, Vanessa should remember she had chosen it. Then she walked out. After she left, Vanessa told her mother the truth. Brooke had lost control months ago. Vanessa was only refusing to hide it any longer. Her mother quietly admitted that helping Brooke had cost her nearly $22,000 over the past 5 years. Vanessa gave her mother the only help she was still willing to offer: treatment information, counseling resources, emotional support without money, lies, signatures, or shelter from legal consequences. 2 days later, Brooke lost her job after an internal review found she had used company records and customer contacts to support her invented business. The landlord declined to renew her lease. Renee filed a civil claim for her $5,000. Brooke called Vanessa and said she was finally ready for treatment. Vanessa emailed her 3 program contacts and the number for a nonprofit debt counseling service. When Brooke asked her to drive her to an assessment scheduled during the busiest day of the clinic's year, Vanessa told her the bus stopped 2 blocks from the center. Brooke called her heartless. Vanessa went back to work. Brooke missed her first assessment and blamed the bus. She missed the second and blamed a job interview. The treatment center offered one final appointment before placing her at the bottom of the waiting list. Meanwhile, the bank dispute moved slowly. The bank provisionally reversed only $2,400 connected to canceled merchandise. Vanessa still had to make payments on the hotel charge, the prepaid cards, and the electronics, which forced her to cancel a continuing education conference in Vancouver she had been planning to attend for 2 years. That loss made the damage feel larger than any number. Brooke had consumed not only money, but time and opportunity she would never think to count. Tessa encouraged Vanessa to use the counseling benefit included with the clinic's insurance. During her first session, Dr. Lindgren asked when she had first felt responsible for Brooke. Vanessa remembered being 17, the year their father was first hospitalized, when 12-year-old Brooke forgot a school project that was due the next morning. Vanessa had stayed awake until 2 building it for her. Brooke earned a top mark, and their parents praised Vanessa for always taking care of everyone. That praise became a role she never put down. Over the years, she had filled out forms, paid bills, written resumes, called employers, and transferred money every time Brooke panicked. What would she have learned if she had received the failing grade? The counselor asked. To prepare, Vanessa answered. And what did she learn instead? The counselor said. "That I would prepare for her," Vanessa replied. Brooke finally attended her third assessment, but only after their mother refused to help unless she walked inside. The evaluator recommended intensive outpatient treatment, financial monitoring, and a self-exclusion request from every betting platform. Brooke accepted the gambling exclusion but resisted the treatment schedule, claiming it would interfere with job hunting. 3 days later, Vanessa received an alert that someone had tried to reset an old email password using a recovery number that ended in Brooke's digits. Brooke claimed she had only been trying to access the betting account in order to close it. Vanessa documented the attempt and added it to her legal file. When Brooke said she was frightened, ashamed, and alone, and reminded Vanessa of a childhood promise they had made never to abandon each other, Vanessa answered, "Being in pain does not give you permission to cross my boundaries." Their mother finally stopped defending her. After an argument grew loud enough that a neighbor called the police, Carol told Brooke she could no longer stay in the house unless she entered treatment and followed written rules. Brooke spent 2 nights sleeping in her car before accepting the outpatient placement. Vanessa did not celebrate. Consequences had pushed Brooke into treatment, but they could not promise change. She turned her attention instead toward a leadership opportunity at the clinic. The senior partners had been searching for someone to lead a new program treating patients with severe, untreated decay, the cases most dentists turned away. Vanessa's proposal earned her the position of lead restorative dentist. When her mother congratulated her, she also admitted that her own rescuing had helped build the crisis. Vanessa appreciated the honesty but said trust would have to be rebuilt through actions, not apologies. During Brooke's financial disclosure, another old lie surfaced. 2 years earlier, Brooke had photographed Vanessa's driver license and used it to apply for an online loan. The application had been declined, but the attempt remained in the records. Vanessa's attorney said she could report it separately. At a treatment center meeting, Vanessa told her the truth. "Every old email and document now makes me wonder whether you used it. I changed every password, froze my credit, canceled my plans, and spent hours proving that I am myself. That is what you took from me." "The loan never went through," Brooke said. "You still tried," Vanessa replied. When Brooke apologized, Vanessa told her she needed actions, not a speech. The counselor placed the repayment agreement on the table, and this time Brooke signed it. Her first payment would be only $75 while she was unemployed, but the structure mattered more than the amount. Renee's civil case moved forward. Brooke was ordered to repay her, sold her car to lower her debts, and entered transitional housing connected to the treatment program. She had lost her job, her apartment, her relationship, her car, her social circle, and the comfortable belief that her family would always erase the consequences. Most painful of all, no one accepted her explanations as payment anymore. 3 months after the rooftop night, Vanessa received an envelope at the clinic. Inside was a money order for $75 and a short handwritten note. There was no dramatic apology. The note said Brooke had started working early morning shifts at a commercial bakery, attended treatment 4 evenings a week, and had completed 58 days without placing a single bet. She wrote that the number did not repair what she had done. She only wanted Vanessa to know the payment had come from her own wages. Vanessa placed the note in her desk drawer instead of answering right away. Her old instinct wanted to praise Brooke, reassure her, and turn one responsible act into proof that everything was healed. Therapy had taught her to sit in the space between improvement and trust without rushing to close it. At work, her promotion brought new responsibilities. She supervised 2 younger dentists and a team of hygienists, and she partnered with a local college to train students. For years, she had turned down leadership because she believed Brooke's emergencies required her to stay flexible. Without those constant interruptions, she discovered how much energy her endless vigilance had quietly drained. She also began rebuilding the personal life she had neglected. Tessa introduced her to a man named Owen, a structural engineer who restored vintage bicycles on weekends. Vanessa agreed to coffee, but told him plainly that she needed to move slowly. She no longer wanted any relationship built on proving how useful she could be. The bank eventually resolved most of the disputed charges. The canceled electronics and part of the hotel charge were reversed. The prepaid cards and one of the deposits were denied. Because the physical card had been handed over willingly, after all the credits, Brooke legally owed Vanessa $5,490, plus the cost of the replacement card and a legal consultation. Combined with Renee's claim, their mother's loans, and the rest of her debts, Brooke's repayment plan would stretch across years. Brooke struggled with the pace during one treatment meeting. She told Vanessa that watching her paycheck vanish into restitution made her feel as though her real life would never begin. "Repayment is not delaying your life," Vanessa answered. "It is part of the life you created." Brooke looked hurt, but the counselor asked her to sit with the statement instead of pushing it away. Later, Brooke admitted she had imagined recovery as a few painful months followed by forgiveness. She had not understood that accountability could be repetitive, quiet, and boring. That admission was the first change Vanessa truly believed. Their mother also began attending a family support group. She apologized for the pressure and for hiding the gambling for so long. More importantly, she changed her behavior. When Brooke asked for money to buy work shoes, Carol did not send cash. She called the treatment center, learned that a vocational fund could provide the shoes, and pointed Brooke toward it. When Brooke complained that family should simply help, Carol replied, "We are helping you use the right system." Vanessa saw that single sentence as proof that her mother was finally learning the difference between support and rescue. The family attended one mediated session together. Brooke admitted that Vanessa's reliability had slowly become something she resented. She had compared every failure in her own life against Vanessa's steady career, and decided that Vanessa somehow owed her for being the successful one. Each time Vanessa saved her, the resentment grew, because the help only confirmed the dependence. "I made you the villain for having what I wanted," Brooke said. "Then I used your kindness as proof that you would never stop me." Vanessa appreciated the honesty, but she did not erase the damage with instant forgiveness. "Understanding why you hurt me does not mean I have to trust you again," she said. "I know," Brooke answered. "Do you?" Vanessa asked. "I am starting to," Brooke said. After the session, Brooke asked whether they could meet for coffee someday without talking about money or treatment. Vanessa said they could consider it after 6 payments made on time and continued attendance. She expected Brooke to argue about the conditions. Instead, Brooke simply nodded. The 6th payment arrived on time. They met at a small cafe near the clinic. Brooke wore her bakery uniform because she had come straight from work. Her hands were dry and reddened from the heat of the ovens and the constant washing. She seemed embarrassed by the uniform, but Vanessa did not rescue her from the discomfort by pretending not to see it. "How is the job?" Vanessa asked. "Hard, repetitive, honest," Brooke answered. She described shaping dough before dawn, scrubbing trays, and learning the rhythm of an industrial oven. Her supervisor had offered to train her on the maintenance of the machinery, because she always arrived early. Brooke said the opportunity was not glamorous, but it was the first thing she had earned without exaggerating who she was. "That sounds impressive to me," Vanessa said. Brooke smiled briefly, then grew serious. "I used to think you had an easy life because you were not constantly destroying it," she said. Vanessa looked at her across the table. "Stability is work, Brooke. I understand that now." Brooke did not ask for money, a ride, a reference, or an introduction. When the bill came, she paid for her own coffee. That evening, Vanessa opened the journal that held her 3 unsent letters. The first said Brooke had killed the last of her trust. The second asked whether Brooke believed Vanessa was a bank machine with feelings. The third mourned the relationship she thought they once had. She began a 4th letter, but this one she intended to mail. "Brooke, forgiveness is not a reset button. It does not return us to the night before the rooftop, and it does not make the charges, the lies, or the fear disappear. I forgive you because I do not want anger to run the rest of my life. I will not forget, because memory protects the boundaries I should have built years ago. You are responsible for rebuilding your life, and I am responsible for protecting mine. I hope we eventually build something new, but it cannot rest on the old arrangement where you created emergencies, and I proved my love by solving them. I believe people can change. I also believe change must be measured by repeated actions, especially when no one is clapping. She mailed the letter the next morning. Brooke did not respond with promises. Her next payment simply arrived on time. 1 year after the rooftop night, Vanessa stood beside a young patient in her new program, a teenager whose front teeth had been badly damaged in an accident years before and left untreated out of fear. Vanessa explained that she would not pretend the damage had never happened. She would stabilize what remained, rebuild what she could, and protect the healthy structure underneath. Preservation, she told the patient, does not mean pretending you were never hurt. It means keeping the damage from spreading. Brooke had completed intensive treatment and continued to attend weekly recovery meetings. She had been promoted to a maintenance role at the bakery and moved into a small studio apartment. Because her former landlord had documented the false financial information, finding housing had been difficult, and she was required to pay a larger deposit. She no longer blamed Vanessa for those consequences. She had repaid $2,140 of her debt and reached a mediated settlement with Renee, who never resumed the friendship. Personal growth did not entitle Brooke to restored access to everyone she had hurt. Their mother repaired her heating system slowly, paying for it month by month instead of borrowing again. She stopped describing Brooke's behavior as one mistake and began naming it accurately. An addiction combined with deliberate dishonesty. The family was not magically healed. Holidays were still tense. Vanessa kept her financial information private, and Brooke occasionally became defensive about the repayment. When the old patterns crept back, Vanessa repeated her boundaries without long speeches. The quiet move had never been revenge in the theatrical sense. She did not steal Brooke's money, shame her in public, sabotage her job, or invent a punishment. She removed the resources that allowed the deception to continue. She canceled her guarantee, protected her accounts, preserved the evidence, and told the truth to the people whose decisions depended on it. Once the safety net disappeared, Brooke met the natural consequences of her own choices. Revenge hunts for suffering as proof of justice. A boundary simply allows consequences to exist, without claiming credit for causing them or guilt for failing to prevent them. During a support meeting, someone asked Vanessa whether she felt guilty that Brooke had once slept in her car. "Yes," she answered, "but guilt is not always proof that you did something wrong. Sometimes it is only proof that you stopped doing what people trained you to do." Vanessa had once believed that love required unlimited access to her money, her credit, her energy, and her future. She had measured her goodness by how much damage she could absorb without walking away. Eventually, she understood that constant rescue harmed both sisters. It kept Brooke dependent, and it kept Vanessa emotionally imprisoned. Healthy support meant offering treatment information without arranging every appointment. It meant listening without transferring money, recognizing progress without canceling restitution, and allowing an adult to feel discomfort instead of treating every hard emotion as an emergency. Months later, Brooke visited the clinic and paused in the doorway of an exam room, watching Vanessa finish rebuilding a fractured tooth. "Can you make it look like it was never broken?" Brooke asked. "I can make it strong again," Vanessa said. "But if I just hid the crack and pretended it was never there, it would fail under the first hard bite. The goal is a tooth that holds, not a tooth that lies." Brooke understood she was speaking about far more than enamel. Before leaving, she handed over her monthly payment. "I am sorry," she said, "not only for the money. I made your kindness feel dangerous." Vanessa did not tell her it was all forgotten. "Keep doing the work," she replied. As Brooke walked away, Vanessa felt neither victorious nor defeated. She felt free. Freedom had not arrived the day Brooke finally understood her pain. It arrived the day Brooke's understanding was no longer required for Vanessa to protect herself. The lesson was never that every struggling relative should be abandoned. People facing addiction, debt, unemployment, or deep emotional pain need real support. But healthy support requires structure, education, responsibility, and honest communication. It should never demand that one person surrender her financial security or her mental health, so another can avoid changing. Boundaries are not cruelty. They define what behavior a relationship can survive. Accountability is not rejection. It recognizes that adults must help repair the harm they cause. Forgiveness is not permission to repeat the offense. Vanessa also learned that financial knowledge is a form of self-defense. Transaction alerts, separate accounts, Credit freezes, secure passwords, written agreements, and careful documentation all matter. Yet no safeguard can ever replace the willingness to say one simple word. No. At 7:40 on that first morning, Brooke screamed because the protection wrapped around her lies suddenly fell away. 1 year later, that same moment marked the first time she was forced to build a real life of her own. Vanessa kept one final letter in her journal. "I spent years repairing the consequences of your choices. The most loving thing I ever did was hand that work back to you." She closed the journal and left the clinic without checking whether anyone needed to be rescued. She was no longer the family's emergency plan, the silent guarantor, or the moving line of credit. She was Vanessa Reed, a woman who finally understood that protecting her own life did not make her disloyal. It made her whole. So tell me honestly, what would you have done in Vanessa's position? Would you have removed the safety net immediately, given your sister one final chance, or kept helping simply because she was family? Share your honest answer in the comments. Your experience might help someone watching recognize the difference between supporting a loved one and sacrificing themselves to shield that person from accountability. This was a fictional story, created for entertainment and reflection. If it leaves you with one message tonight, let it be this: never let temporary pain convince you to return to a place where your heart was repeatedly disrespected.